Argentina's coup d'etat started on March 24, 1976. It was led by Jorge Rafael Videla, General Commander of the Army, and planned and executed by Plan Condor, which is going to be explained in the causes of this coup d'etat.
The military took all government power and transformed Argentina in a dictatorship that lasted 2,182 days.
Many changes were made, including the National Congress was closed, Peronism was prescribed, trade unions were banned, censorship was imposed, and in general brought state control to the military. Argentina's coup d'etat has various causes. We're going to mention some of them. The first cause would be the death of the president and the violence coming with it. When Argentina's president Juan Domingo Perón died in 1974, his successor, María Estela Martínez de Perón, mostly known as Isabel Perón, took the nation's power and management.
Gran dolor debo transmitir al pueblo el fallecimiento de un verdadero apóstol de la paz y la no violencia.
When having the nation's power, she started managing the country following policies like the support of social market economy, meaning she established a socio-economic model that combined both the free market capitalistic economic system and a series of social policies. Leftist purging. Isabel Perón removed most leftists from university posts and administration and used federal intervention to dismount leftist governors, taking the power of the provinces. This, of course, caused several breakdowns and political murders by the Montoneros, leftist guerrilla organization in Argentina. To prevent this, she signed the anti-terrorism law to combat leftist violence. As time passed, Isabel Perón was seen as a weak and non-sufficient enough leader to lead the region. This was mostly caused by José López Rega, the Minister of Social Welfare, which started vetting domestic and foreign policies, slowly swatting Perón's policies. His public behavior, like silently mouthing her words as she spoke, made the people decrease the support of her regime. Not only this, but he was known to have fascist and corrupt behaviors. Another factor that led to the decrease in Perón's support was his creation of the Argentine Anti-Communist Alliance, or AAA, a right-wing paramilitary force that between 1973 and 1974 had carried over 300 murders. Left-wing extremists began using violence too, so the country began having extreme violence from both sides. Meanwhile, Isabel Perón lost support. She was persuaded to declare Argentina in a state of siege, or state of emergency, in which laws can be changed drastically to protect the people. Laws changed such as the banning of habeas corpus and the appearance of censorship. After all this, Operation Independence began in Tucumán in 1975. It was a military campaign known for its brutality and violence. Its main aim was to attack elected officials and give power to the military. So saying this, we can conclude this was one of the starting points of the coup d'etat. Finally, we're going to talk about various problems in the country, including economy. Argentina's economic problems were basically because in 1975 the real per capita income fell by more than 20%, wiping more than 3 decades of economic development. And in 1975, inflation accelerated sharply, reaching an average of more than 300% per year from 1975 to 1991, increasing prices 20 billion times. To finish up with the causes, we're going to talk about the relationship between the world context at the moment and Argentina's coup d'etat.
The Cold War was a period in which the United States and the Soviet Union had a tension between them, and it started after the Second World War. Usually, the term cold is used in no large fights or battles, and for example, in the US and the Soviet, they had external conflicts, so they could fight between them. When the Nazi Germany surrendered in May 1945, near the close of the World War II, The uneasy wartime alliance between the United States and the Great Britain on the one hand and the Soviet Union on the other began to unravel. The Americans and the British feared the permanent Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, and it threatened the Soviet-influenced communist parties coming to power in the democracies of Western Europe. Operation Condor consisted of a secret alliance between South American dictatorships formed to track and eliminate enemies of the military regimes at the moment. Argentina was involved in this operation as its civic military dictatorship lasted from 1976 to 1983 by the military juntas under Operation Condor. Usually it was based on violence, state terror, and political repression. The precise number of deaths is so high that exactly cipher is not known, around 60,000 deaths. In the coup d'etat of Argentina, for over 1 year before March 1976, U.S. government officials and other observers consistently characterized the situation in Argentina as deteriorating. Both the press and United States intelligence agencies reported on political instability and uncertainty, especially in coverage of the inner circle of President Isabel Perón, in which crime and terrorists disrupted daily life in Argentina, and also the Cold War foreign policies prioritized.
The time when a lot of violence was used against the citizens, from part of the soldiers and the military. This time was also called the Dirty War because of the lack of human rights and all the abuse of power. In this situation, or you support the new military regime or you died. Coup d'etat installed a civic military dictatorship, also called Proceso de Reorganización Nacional, and was mainly characterized by implementing systematic state terrorism, which caused lots of deaths and disappearance of many people during this time. Technically, people who didn't support their regime were kidnapped, tortured, and killed.
Después me llevaron a una sala que ellos llamaban quirófano, que era una sala donde había una mesa de metal y un colchón de goma pluma, húmedo. Ahí me acostaron, me hicieron abrir las piernas y me ataron los tobillos a la mesa y con los brazos hacia atrás también me ataron las muñecas y comenzaron a torturarme con picana eléctrica. En ese momento yo lo único que quería era morirme.
Other countries could get suspicious about the horrible acts that were being committed by the regime in Argentina. Because of this, the military created a new strategy in which they will drug the opposition, the people, they will put concrete on their feet, fly above the ocean and throw them in the deep sea. In 1982, the military government entered into the Falklands War against the United Kingdom. The defeat included in this war sparked the fall of the third military junta, and a few months later, the fourth military junta called elections for October 1938. Raúl Alfonsín of the Radical Civil War won the elections and assumed power in December of 1983.
This period left various consequences on Argentine society, economy, and culture, such as increase in public debt, abuse of power in dictatorship, caused deaths, kidnapping, and torture, and the disappearance of thousands of people, great inflation, and loss of value of the local currency, instability and social and illegal insecurity, impairment of the rights and freedom of people, the Malvinas War, in which many young people died. Thousands of children were stolen from their mothers. The emergence of Condor Plan and the persecution of opponents and communists. The emergence of the clandestine resistance group called Mother of the Plaza de Mayo. And that's all the effects of the coup d'etat in Argentina.